The divine feminine and the divine masculine are the foundation for the entire twin flame relationship. These two energies, though they are whole within themselves, create a powerful dynamic when they are combined and balanced. Every twin flame relationship, every set of twin flames, contains within it a perfect balance of divine feminine and divine masculine energy. When this energy is balanced, we and our twin flame are magnetically drawn together perfectly, embodying the yin and yang, stepping forward together into our soul purpose, often a shared purpose or calling we have in this life, in order to use this powerful combination of energies, this mastermind force of the divine feminine combined with the divine masculine, in order to uplift both ourselves and collective consciousness as a whole. And yet, so many of us within our twin flame relationship don't experience such an effortless coming together. We experience the honeymoon phase, the initial meeting, feeling passionately on fire for one another and deeply in love, followed by what is often coined the runner-chaser dynamic, a period of emotional, mental, or physical separation in which it feels as if one counterpart is pulling away and the other is pushing back. This running and chasing tends to continue in cycles, sometimes making us feel as if we are stuck in an endless loop. Why does this happen if our relationship is so divine, so perfectly orchestrated? If the energies within it are designed to be so perfectly balanced, how does it all get so out of whack? And that is what I'm going to be talking about in this video. How to determine whether you are the divine feminine or the divine masculine if you're not sure. Why these energies become unbalanced and how we can begin to bring them back into harmony so that we can come into this magnetically attracted, easy, effortless union with our twin flame simply by shifting the balance of energies within ourselves. But first, let me introduce myself. My name is Infinity, and this is Magnetize Yourself, where we talk about life, love, spirituality, and of course, the law of attraction. Let me know in the comments below, are you the divine feminine or are you the divine masculine? Are these energies balanced within your relationship, or are they imbalanced within your connection in some way? And how has this affected you and your twin flame in this connection? I always say in this community, love is catching like wildfire. There are so many of you beautiful souls out there listening, and as a community, we are attracting more and more of one another every day. More like-minded, creative beings awakening to our true power and potential. So if that resonates with you, please do subscribe to this channel. Let's first begin by defining the divine feminine and the divine masculine. Because within every twin flame relationship, there are two counterparts, one that embodies the feminine and one that embodies the masculine. I also want to add a bit of a nuance here, because if you think immediately 100% that they correspond to what we would call biological genders, think again, because technically the divine feminine or the divine masculine energy can reside within either biological gender. It doesn't matter what your gender is. You could have embodied within you, within your soul, on a soul level, you could be the divine feminine if you are a male, and you could be the divine masculine if you are a female. But traditionally and in most cases, the divine feminine is embodied by the woman and the divine masculine is embodied by the man. And again, many of you know this, so this is repetition. Just for those of you who are new, these twin flame connections do not have to be heterosexual. They can be between two people of the same gender as well. It is a soul relationship. It is very energetically based. So there are no boundaries or restrictions as far as gender when it comes to twin flames. Let's talk first about some of the basic differences between the divine feminine and the divine masculine. The divine masculine directs and projects its energy outward. That is one way to conceptualize it. Whereas the divine feminine turns and directs the energy inward. The divine masculine is naturally, in its natural whole form, very decisive and takes positive action. But in this decisiveness of action, the divine masculine, I will use the pronoun he and she just because it's easier here, but the divine masculine, in taking this action, is not aggressive or overly competitive. And this is something that is very misunderstood because of the ways we are taught that masculine energy is meant to be, especially within the Western world. The masculine's efforts, decisive action, although it is very firm, is not aggressive in any way, and it is not negative. It is not intended to harm or step on others in order to get ahead. It is very assured within itself, sure of itself, confident of itself. It does not need to prove anything, either to itself or to others. The divine feminine, on the other hand, like I said, is directed inward. It is very nurturing and assuring and reassuring to others. It tends to be more naturally intuitive. Divine feminines tend to be more naturally drawn to spiritual subjects, although both energies, of course, are spiritual teachers and leaders in their own way. The divine feminine is often, as a cliche, considered to be the more spiritual one. Again, this is just an overgeneralization, and both are on an equal spiritual path. As I lay out these differences, I want to make it very clear. I am never making any of these differentiations to lead you to believe that one aspect is better than the other. In fact, this is exactly part of the way that I'll get into later in which these energies become so unbalanced, because we mistakenly believe, or were programmed to believe, that one aspect of either the divine feminine or the divine masculine trumps the other, is to be honored more than the other. Both aspects are to be honored equally, and only when they exist equally and are combined are they capable of producing this very powerful magnetic effect that we often see within the twin flame connection, but even on a world scale. So I just wanted to give that as a little side note, because I know there are many divine feminines and divine masculines, and I want to be very cautious with making you both feel very seen, heard, and clearly understood, because these energies are so misunderstood and in many ways dishonored in our society. The divine feminine is believed to be very intuitive, very in tune with her own senses, because again, she is much more turned inward. The way these energies work so perfectly together when they are in harmony is that the divine feminine naturally turns inward to her own intuition. The divine masculine is a natural leader in the sense that he is able to take positive, decisive action. So in a harmonious union, the divine feminine will receive intuition, receive creative inspiration, and the divine masculine will be able to translate much of that into firm, decisive action. So this is how these two go very much hand in hand. And again, It's difficult to put these energies into concrete words, just like with so much about the twin flame connection. So forgive me if I'm not perfectly describing it with my words. I hope that the energy behind it really gets across through whatever words I use. Because again, I'm not saying that the Divine Feminine doesn't take action, because of course she does. But when the Divine Feminine and the Divine Masculine are combined, it is a perfect storm, because there is one force between them that is able to more easily, more openly receive intuition. And there is the other that is more easily able to move into an action space. So understand that often these energies will work individually, but on the surface, the action, the movement forward will happen as a team, as a set, as a combination of energies. So the Divine Feminine may be receiving some kind of intuitive insight, and then the Divine Masculine may encourage her and him together into some form of action that then they both move forward with together. This is why twin flames often make such phenomenal business partners or partners in any endeavor, because they blend these two very powerful energies into one perfect storm of a force. Just to lay out a few more differences, the Divine Masculine tends to be more logical and analytical, what we would consider left brain, whereas the Divine Feminine is considered more artistic and naturally creative, intuitive, what we would consider the right brain. And just to give you an example of why these energies need to be together, why they are both so sacred and so equal. I mean, just think about the fact that one represents the left brain and one represents the right brain. It is very necessary within our biology as humans and within our psyche to have these both aspects of our mind in order to be able to function. Just as one powerful, very real illustration of the necessity of each of these forces. Did you know that people who are incapable of feeling emotion are actually also incapable of making decision? It turns out that emotion and decision are very connected. So here in this illustration, we can see the very sacred importance of having one energy that is more emotional and one energy that is more decision-oriented working together, that one without the other would not have the same power, force, and clarity. The Divine Feminine is that energy that allows us to just be in the moment, to be present, to turn inward to our own intuitive thoughts, ideas, and imaginings. Whereas the Divine Masculine allows us to do, to step into that action mode, to actually take day-to-day action steps toward our dreams and goals. Now, let's talk about how these energies get so out of balance and why this is so detrimental. We call this imbalance the wounded feminine and the wounded masculine. And I would go so far as to say that because of the ways we are programmed by our parents, our teachers, our peers, by society at large, nearly every single one of us, no matter who we are, experiences some form of wounding, either as a Divine Feminine or as a Divine Masculine. Some of us experience this wounding to a greater degree, but it's almost unavoidable in today's modern world. The wounded feminine is the feminine that steps into this energy of desperation and neediness. She feels the need to prove herself worthy of a love. She feels the need to move into this push energy, to take on many of the masculine traits in order to prove herself worthy of what is flowing to her. And how this plays out in society is, as a Divine Feminine, we are often taught, I say we because I identify as a Divine Feminine, but we are taught by society from a young age that we must do everything ourselves, that we cannot simply receive. We are taught to be very action-oriented, very overly logical, overly analytical. And as a Divine Feminine, this is very unnatural for us because we are highly creative, highly intuitive people. We like to make art. We like to receive effortless inspiration, but we are told from a young age that that isn't valuable. Our divine feminine energy is dishonored often by the ways we are programmed by society. We are taught to devalue that creative, highly spiritual, highly intuitive energy within us, and to forego it and instead train ourselves to act, be, and do in ways that are very unnatural to us, in ways that are too heavily leaning toward the divine masculine. So we are taught that we must force everything into being, whereas a true divine feminine in her power simply attracts magnetically. I want you to imagine that an empowered, healed divine feminine is truly like a magnet. She draws to her everything that she needs effortlessly. She makes it look easy. She is a true goddess in her goddess power. She doesn't have to force or push. She doesn't have to force herself into action that she doesn't want to take all the time, to force herself into movement. She can truly trust her own intuition in taking action that is driven by inspiration and passion and emotion, not action that is driven by an overly logical or overly analytical mind. So the wounded feminine, because she is in this highly masculine state, then emits an energy of desperation, of neediness, of having to push, and this really translates into her relationship, both her relationships prior to meeting her twin flame, and especially within this twin flame relationship, because twin flames bring out this wounding. They bring it to the surface for the purpose of healing it. They trigger these wounds like no other relationship will. This is often why, again, not always, but very often the divine feminine, when she becomes the runner, it's often because she feels herself becoming very desperate or needy, needing to force the relationship on her own timeline into being, rather than simply stepping into her goddess energy, stepping into her power, and truly deeply believing in her innate worthiness of love and of this connection. Now, let's talk about the wounded masculine. Because of the ways the wounded masculine has been programmed by society, he believes that not only should he take action, but he should do so aggressively, and in fact that he must be aggressive in order to attract success. A true divine masculine in his power does take action very firmly, very decisive action, but at the same time, he does so from a place, from an energetic headspace of support, of love, of wanting to assist himself and others. This comes from a very positive headspace. It is not negatively driven action or action driven by aggression. However, again, within society, the divine masculine is told that he must be aggressive in order to get ahead, in order to make a way for himself, and that if he doesn't act aggressively, he is not quote unquote a true man or a real man, that he cannot allow himself to honor and listen to intuition, whether that intuition is coming from himself or from his divine feminine counterpart. He is taught to focus so intensely and solely on movement and action, sometimes action just for the sake of action, that he loses a sense of himself. He can lose a sense of his true purpose in life, his true calling, and even his true motivations in life. A divine masculine is naturally very loyal, but loyalty is also a very undervalued trait in today's society. We're taught that everything we do should be done for ourselves, such a strict and rigid individualism, especially in Western society, that the divine masculine believes that to do something out of loyalty, either loyalty to his principles, loyalty to his family or another person, or loyalty to his divine feminine counterpart, would be some form of weakness, because he is not acting solely from a space of individualism. On a larger scale, our society itself tends to, on a collective scale, especially in Western society, like I said earlier, tends to value hypermasculinity to the point of aggression, aggressive action, and heavy competitiveness, whereas it tends to devalue the emotional side of our being, that emotional, intuitive, spiritual side of the yin and yang. So even on a collective, not just an individual level, but on a collective level, we are very trained in certain ways of thinking about ourselves and what we have to do in order to survive, that cause us to step into this ego and either express ourselves as a wounded feminine or a wounded masculine. So then what happens is when we meet our divine counterpart, they trigger these wounds within us in order to heal them. And as these wounds emerge, we then experience the runner-chaser. And the runner-chaser can go both directions. I know many of you know this because many of you listening are divine masculines who have been either both the chaser and the runner, or who are currently the chaser and consider your twin flame the runner. It can go both ways, and it very easily can also flip from one to the other. There's a cliche of looking at the divine feminine as the runner, but this really isn't true 100% of the time. It's not even true really most of the time because, like I said, the energy can just as easily flip. Like I said earlier, if the divine feminine is becoming the chaser, it is because she is becoming very needy, feeling this air of desperation, needing to push the relationship into being. But then when the wounded masculine, the divine masculine, becomes the runner, in these cases, usually he feels the need to push the relationship into being through overaction, through pushing so hard, through planning it all out, through being overly analytical, overly logical, and maybe even aggressive in his approach, which pushes the divine feminine away. Now, how do we balance these energies? Because like I said, these energies, when in balance, result in a very powerful is an understatement, a kind of connection that could move forward any goal, dream, or desire imaginable. It truly brings together the yin and yang of the entire ether of the universe. Twin flames in harmonious union and balance of the divine feminine and the divine masculine have a limitless power to create not only within their lives, but to create on a collective level. This video is getting kind of long, so I'm just going to gloss over my favorite technique to clearing, healing, and balancing the divine feminine and divine masculine energies, and this is through meditation. The reason I recommend meditation is because any other tool or resource is really just working on the external. Other tools and resources can be effective, but nothing will ever be as effective as treating your twin flame healing as a very personal inner journey. Because when you heal, clear, and balance energies within, your counterpart will naturally clear, heal, and balance as well. That is how it works within a twin flame relationship. We mirror each other's energy. What this means is that if you, as a divine feminine or a divine masculine, consciously choose to actively participate in your own self-healing, self-balancing, by balancing these energies within yourself, your twin flame will actually sense this shift of balance in your connection more broadly. And this will cause them to be effortlessly and magnetically attracted to you. It will also cause them to heal and balance these energies naturally within themselves. It all begins from within. If you would like to begin participating in this self-healing, self-balancing journey, consider incorporating my 7-chakra twin flame clearing subliminal in your daily meditation routine. I know this is repetitive for some of you because many of you are already members on my site, and thank you to each of you for supporting me in this way. But for those of you that don't know, subliminals are a very powerful way to reprogram our subconscious mind, to clear and dissolve any blockages and barriers, and in this case, those internal blockages, energetic blockages that are preventing us from fully coming into balance, either in our divine masculine or our divine feminine power. So if you'd like to explore more about that subliminal meditation, you can try it out completely free for 7 days when you create a trial account on my website, Sound and Soulful, and the link to that will be in the pinned comment and in the description box. Also, I know I've said this before, but I am in the process of creating a brand new subliminal, one for the divine masculine and one for the divine feminine, and these will be diving even deeper into balancing these masculine and feminine energies with whichever energy you resonate with, whichever you embody. So that is in the works and will be available to all members on my website soon, so stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast, for joining me here on this channel. I hope you all have a wonderful start to your new year and a wonderful rest of your day. And I'll talk to you again in the next podcast.